Take two.
Take two, man. So we were just recording the podcast right now.
For at least like a good 20 minutes.
And it was a solid 20 minutes. A lot of gems were dropped, but it's all good. My memory card was full, and so it stopped recording. And so, yeah, that's my bad, but we're here again. But dude, this place is sick, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm all about having a space that is conducive to working in and being comfortable. If you work in a disaster, you're never going to want to come work in it, right?
Right. And so I could see like just
I'm pretty OCD.
It's very very well organized. Like, yeah, you have a ton of stuff, but it's like, again, it's a very organized. Like your closet has so much camera. You're like, I'm low key jealous. Like, how much stuff do you have? How much?
Way too much. Way too much.
Let's just drop a number. How much have you dropped? Like, would you own right now?
I have no idea.
Ballpark.
Ballpark. I guess I could go off like my last like itemized list for my insurance company, right?
I guess
like probably 50 grand.
50 grand?
Yeah.
I was gonna say a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
and maybe when you like add in all like the accessories and batteries and memory cards, right?
Yeah.
Like those aren't on the insurance sheet, but man, like, you know, a good V mount battery, $300.
Yikes.
Memory card, $200. Like there's $500 right there.
right.
And people have no clue. Clients have no clue that.
They just know you have a camera and it looks small, so it's not impressive. So hey, you're not worth that much.
Yeah.
I'm just generalizing.
You know, the memory card's $200.
Yeah, seriously. So guys, I haven't introduced our guest. This is Jared, based out of San Diego, California. He is a content creator, podcaster, YouTuber, and also does he niches in the real estate content space. So Jared, man, how's it been with the whole content creation, man?
The content creation has been good. I've been in the content creation space probably, I don't even know, 2017 maybe, like making YouTube videos, or maybe 2018. Little YouTube videos here and there. Don't go watch, guys, because they suck. They're horrible.
They're not bad, dude. Relax.
If anything, I keep them up so like you can feel better about what you're creating. But off and on with like video content on YouTube, I really want to do more. It's just a time thing,
right? And
it always falls by the wayside because I am so busy with client work that,
which is a great problem.
My own stuff, like it's the last thing I want to do. But then I've been doing a podcast for 3 years, and I love doing that. It has gotten to a point where it's, again, juggling that with like client work. It's been a little difficult scheduling episodes. And then after 3 years, like I love doing it, but maybe I need to take a step back and figure out how to change it up. Because when you're doing something that's the same for 3 years, those creative juices kind of start depleting, and you got to find something else to change things up. I have a couple ideas. It's good to like take breaks.
Yeah.
But when you take a break, you got to make sure that you jump back in, because that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
If you take too long of a break, then you don't come back.
Mm-hmm. And that's happened to like the old podcast. We took a little Christmas break and we never came back. But back speaking of podcast, I know you've been podcasting for what, 2-3 years now? At this point, like you said?
I think it's 3 years.
And the cool thing about your podcast is that you're like interviewing like top, like in my eyes, like YouTube dogs. Like you're interviewing big names. Like
we've had, Pat Flynn, Sean Cannell on the show, Peter Lindgren, Danny Gevirtz. A lot of like great creators on the show. Yeah,
and I feel like for example, like Danny Gevirtz, like he is like blowing up right now, especially with like he's like a true cinematographer, YouTuber in my opinion. I don't know many other cinematographers out there, but in my eyes, I've been following his page for years and just seeing his progression.
And he was on right as he was blowing up, like he came on the show, and
that's sick.
It was awesome. It was actually like a turning point for the show too.
Okay,
having him on. Because he was the first one who's like, nah, I don't need any like prep questions or notes or anything, and it was just like this, like a fun, casual conversation, and it's still the best performing episode. Like people go back, and that was years ago, and still listen to that show
because he's blowing up. I feel like that specific podcast is showing up in the algorithms when they type in Danny Gevirtz. Yeah, because I've seen it many times. Yeah. How's it been doing like the whole virtual thing? Like I'm trying to dabble into the virtual, like try to because I can't go to people's places all the time, so I need to make it a little bit of convenience, especially if a creator is like from out of the state. And how has that experience been? It's
great. There are some downsides to it from like a technical aspect, but
I've heard some of your episodes.
Yeah, it's great because I can have anyone on from anywhere in the world, and that's why I've been able. Like, there's no way I'm going to go. Well, Pat Flynn maybe because he's local, but like, there's no way I'm going to go get Sean Cannell or Peter Lindgren, who's in Sweden, on the show, and he's been on the show like 2 or 3 times. There's no way I could have made that happen if it was
unless you fly
person,
out
there. Right. So it's been great. There are downsides like with internet connectivity and just delay and speaking and stuff. And that does make editing the podcast a little bit more difficult just because I am so particular on the gap in between like asking a question and getting an answer.
The lag.
So that makes it difficult, but it's been great because I've got to meet and talk to so many cool people one-on-one, which, you know, not too many people get to do that. So it's been great.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Like off mic, when we're done recording, I'm going to have to get some pointers from you as far as like what softwares and whatnot, no name brands right now. But yeah, man, I've been following your journey for a few years now. I got connected to you through a mutual friend. He had mentioned that you're from San Diego, you do content, and I checked up your YouTube and started following it ever since. And then I saw you started doing podcasts and whatnot. So I'm a fan of your work, man. And then I'm glad we finally were able to connect in person, probably like what, 2 months ago?
Yeah. Yeah. And got a coffee. It was great.
Yeah, that was cool. So yeah, man, how's it been with the, how's your business been doing and how did you start?
Yeah, business has been great. I never thought I would do photography full-time, videography. I mean, everyone wants to, I would love to, but
it's a buzzword right now, man.
It's hard to make it work. So when you're like starting in the creative field and you're like, I like this, oh, it'd be great to make money doing this. And you just like, how? It's one of the first things people start Googling, right? When they want to make money, like, how do I make money with my camera? It's not easy. And to make enough to make a living is very difficult. It takes a long time and a lot of hustle, but it's at a point now to where it's like, I got to start maybe planning on, I mean, you've talked about it, like just having a second shooter that I can refer work to, because I don't want to miss out on work. I don't want to disappoint clients, but it's gotten to that point where, even today, you know, it's raining outside and I still have jobs to go do. So
right. It sounds like a problem, but I think it's a great problem to have because, like, again, do you want to be the kid Googling, how do I make money? I'd rather have the problem where it's like, I have too much work. I need to expand. I need to hire out and outsource.
And it's like, I don't want to complain about it, but it is when you are at that point, it is a legitimate problem from a business standpoint because you don't want work to go somewhere else. You don't want jobs going somewhere else. So they never come back to you. Mm-hmm. So it is a legitimate problem when you get to that point.
Right. And I mean, we don't have to go in super detail, but like, can you elaborate to the creators? Like, how did you get to this level?
It takes time, right? There is no magic answer to that. I think that's what I've learned through this whole process. And even when you research on, you know, how to make money as a creative or with your camera, there is no magic answer. Everyone has different solutions to that. You just got to find the one that works for you and just hammer away at it. And you got to give it time. It just takes time. And that's, I feel like what no one says on YouTube is they tell you how to do it, but no one tells you that it's going to take time. Right. It's going to take years. It's not overnight. You know, I've been doing this full time since the end of 2019. And even that was like a giant leap. I look back at like my spreadsheets of like income and revenue and everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I take this leap to do it full time? Like the numbers weren't there to do it full time. My poor wife must have been having like panic attacks. Like, how are you doing this full time? But it worked out.
Yeah.
And
so persistence.
You have to. Yeah.
Do you have like any sort of like, were you always in the creative space or do you have like, did you go to school for, did you major in something?
So I've always done stuff with cameras ever since elementary school. There's like a little, I think it's like second or third grade, like a camera competition with Kmart, the local Kmart. And I won that competition and got like a little crappy plastic, you know, film camera. And ever since then, I've kind of been hooked. I put cameras up and down. I think growing up in Southern California, skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding, doing a lot of action sports, like cameras and action sports go hand in hand. So cameras have always kind of been a part of my life. I took photography in high school. So I've always had a desire to do things with cameras.
Okay.
And when I picked a camera back up in probably like 2015 and got really into it, it's like Peter McKinnon was starting out. So there's a lot of those like cool camera hacks and those OG days and trying that stuff out. And at some point I was like, I want to start making some money with this so I can buy more camera gear. Had nothing to do with making a living, right?
Literally just wanted to buy more camera gear.
I just wanted more camera gear. I wanted a drone. I wanted a better camera, a better lens.
And we'll talk about camera gear because you have an insane amount of cameras. We'll talk about that later in a second.
So it kind of started out with that and starting with real estate photography. Just had a friend I know was a real estate agent, helped us buy this house, reached out to her. Can I shoot your next listing? Yeah, sure. No problem. She was very patient because my work was okay. It wasn't bad. but it's nothing like it is now.
It was not like a glamorous HDR image
Yeah,
like
today's.
today's.
It's nothing like it is now. But it kind of just, kind of went from there, and doing a lot of marketing. I have a strong marketing background, so just putting a lot of effort into that. I would say when you're doing a creative business, and some people will say this, some people may disagree, but I would say it's 70 to 80% business and 20 to 30% creativity. You got to be good enough to deliver a consistent product to your clients so they know what to expect. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and you need to know how to run a business to be able to be successful. Creativity takes a backseat to running a business, definitely.
No, 100%, because I have no business background. I just graduated from high school, and I went to Maricosta and dropped out twice. Picked up the camera. I mean, you guys have heard my story at this point many times, but yeah, it's just learning the whole business side has been a fun experience. It's challenging, but it's like I never thought I'd be in the business world, because I am now. But I actually love it. I'm learning to love the progress. Like, I'm learning to love the journey, as they say. Many people say, "Oh, you got to enjoy the journey." I'm actually enjoying it. Like, is it a pain in the ass? Hell yeah, it is. Is it scary when you don't know if you're gonna get paid this month? Hell yeah, it is. But I know if I stay persistent, going back to what you said, big things are going to happen. And yeah, I'm a firm believer of just like being persistent. I know you had mentioned marketing. You had a strong background in marketing. What is it that you've brought from, I don't know what previous jobs you had in the past, from marketing to the actual business itself? Like, you give me a specific example.
Well, I think brand consistency is super important. I think a lot of people change up their look and their styles, and that's part of being a creative, right?
Evolution.
But I think having some sort of consistency, and then giving time for that consistency and that brand consistency to work is super important. I think people do stuff for a very short period of time, and they think it's not working because they're not seeing results, so they change things up or they give up. So having consistency in your brand and in your marketing, it takes a long time. Don't give something a week or two. Give it months to see if it works. And that's scary when you're first starting out. You don't have months when you're first starting out to give things a chance to work, but that's what it takes.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Again, when it comes to that, like, for this specific podcast, I told myself that I'm going to post every single day. And I've been posting for the most part every single day. I probably missed like 2 or 3 since I launched the podcast. We're now in episode 7, and it's been fun. But it's also a lot of work, like you said, producing your own podcast, editing your own podcast, making some micro clips. And but I've seen, since it's been 6 weeks or 7 weeks now, I've seen the numbers go up, and I've seen the growth happening right now. I'm starting to see the growth happening on all platforms, from YouTube Shorts to TikToks to Instagram Reels. Being consistent, posting every single day is definitely it's definitely been a key factor for the growth of the podcast.
I think that's super important when it comes to developing a creative business. But I think another area that's super important, where a lot of people are lacking, is pricing. Like, you have to have good pricing and proper pricing to be able to be successful and to do it long term. You have to make money, right? And I think in this business, a lot of people are unsure of themselves, and they undercut maybe the current market, or even undercut themselves when it comes to pricing. And you need to understand what all goes into your pricing to be able to do this successfully long term. And you need to be confident about your pricing. And the only way you develop that confidence is really knowing what goes in to your pricing, or really what comes out of what you're charging the client, and kind of seeing what you make at the end of the day, to be confident that, like, no, I'm not overcharging, I'm not undercharging, to know what you actually make. I have spreadsheets on spreadsheets that tell me my percentage of profitability, when I charge somebody, how much of that, what comes out for credit card processing, what comes out for taxes, what comes out for business profit to be able to, like, actually operate a business. Savings, right? You need to have a business savings account so you can reinvest into more gear. And then, of course, setting aside money for taxes. And once that's all done, there's a number at the end. That's what you make. And so you really need to kind of dial that all in to be able to understand, okay, I'm actually not charging enough, and to up what you're charging. I think if everyone did that in this industry, we'd all be making more money.
Right. Yeah, but it's I feel like a lot of creatives are, especially when you're starting off, like, oh, this is my baby right here. Like
They just
this.
pull a number out of the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they really don't understand, or they look at what other people are charging and they charge less. Why would you charge less? I understand what the thinking behind that is.
Devil's advocate. I want to gain that. Client.
Right. But like when you charge, when you charge cheap and you're cheap, you're going to get cheap clients, which is a headache, right? Like I've been there, right? We've all been there when you're first starting out.
Yeah.
The reason we can say this with confidence is because we've done it. Don't do it. You're going to get cheap clients, which are a headache.
It's the
Absolute
worst,
headache.
man. It's the worst. Like there is a saying, and I 100% agree with, like, I forget the actual meme, but or the saying is, but like if you have $100,000 client, or let's say a $20,000 client, they're going to just, all right, send me the invoice. We're going to process it right now. You freaking charge someone $2,000 for a video. They're just going to hassle you, or even $500 for a video, $400 for a video. They're just hassling you. It happens all the time where for some reason the cheap clients are literally your worst nightmare. It doesn't make sense, but it's just the way it is for some reason.
Yeah. And again, you just have to understand your pricing. $500 might not be cheap for what you're delivering. Maybe it's only a 15-minute shoot, and like $500 that's great profitability after 15 minutes. But yeah, you just got to understand your pricing. Do a little research, do a little homework. And even if that means taking some classes on profitability and pricing, and there's tons of courses you can take. But I think if more people did that, that would be super important.
Have you invested in any course or any like masterminds that you see out there?
Not when it comes to business stuff, just because that's just been experience learning that through years of working in sales and marketing and looking at profitability sheets, which has nothing to do with creativity. But we've talked about, like, you have to have a business mindset to be able to run a business. Courses I've taken though have, I have for lighting, and I think that's important. So when it does come to the creativity side, I have, done courses. I have Mark Bone's course on the doc, AOD course, which is great. I have a couple of courses I got from Moment. I think Valentina V's course, which is on like interview lighting.
She does like Adobe, right?
She does Adobe, but this course is on lighting, like interview lighting. So little courses like that where you see a need in your business. Like I'm only going to invest in courses that are going to help me make money, right? And improve my skills to be able to charge more. So I wouldn't take every course, but courses where you're like, okay, I need to specialize in that so I can charge more.
Right.
So I'm going to do that.
Right. Cool. In the part one of our recording, you had mentioned something about marketing and how to be persistent with clients. Like, do you mind touching that?
Yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit, but it just comes to giving your marketing time to work. For example, I do a weekly email to real estate agents in my market, or at least the market I want to focus in. And if I just did that for a few weeks, maybe I got a handful of clients, but I've been doing it for a year and I still have people calling me, not because they just got my recent email, but they're like, hey, I've been getting your emails for a while now, and I want to give you a shot. I'm ready. I'm finally ready to try somebody new. You come up in my emails every week, I'm gonna give you a shot. So you got to be in front of people constantly, so you stay top of mind. If you never know when they're ready for your service or when they're ready to try somebody new. So if I just emailed that list for a month, and then 3 months down the road, somebody's ready to, try a new real estate photographer. If I wasn't in their inbox, would they have called me? Probably not. They probably would have forgot about me. Same thing when you look at general marketing. What about billboards, right? You see something, maybe you drive down the same freeway and you see that over and over again. Maybe it's for a specific beer, and you go to the grocery store and you see it, and it's just subliminal, I'm going to give that a shot. Because it's top of mind.
Yeah. And it's happened many times. Like going back to the billboard, you see a certain candy or a certain product, and like, I'll never get that. After your 20th drive from seeing it, and then you go to the store and you see it and you remember that, I'm like, let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
Boom, day one.
There's a reason these big companies do marketing like that. Even if you can't track the ROI on it, they want to stay top of mind. So they spend money doing that, even though they can't track the actual ROI on that. There's a reason these big companies do it. And if it works for them, it can work for smaller companies, even if you're just doing photography.
Bars. Yes, you got to stay persistent, guys. Because I've been at fault where I emailed someone maybe once and then follow up a week later, and I don't hear from them. It's like, all right, they're not ready for me, or they don't want to work with me, or they chose somebody else. But you never really know. Like you said, what if they're just not ready? So I'm going to go home and follow up on all those emails after hearing your story right now. But it's like, yeah, like I know it's easy for like a smaller, like a younger creator to like get butthurt about it. It's like, oh man, they chose somebody else, or they went for the cheaper route, and you get all mad and frustrated, which you really do not know what's their reason to.
And if they go to the cheaper route, just be happy they didn't go with you, right? Because they would have been a pain.
Yeah, this goes back to saying, yeah, like it would have been a pain. Jared, dude, so do you have any plans for the future? I know you're doing podcast stuff, and then I don't know, you might do some YouTube stuff. Like, what is like your passionate content that you like to create? Because you said you got into the space to get camera gear and just create some cool stuff. Like, what is it that you're passionate about right now?
Passionate about, I mean, really the business is what I'm passionate about, because it's really grown to a point that I'm excited about, with, you know, a steady enough client flow and new clients coming in to really see that business grow, and something you've worked hard on it's super awesome to see. So I'd like to get to a point to where I have some extra shooters where I don't have to be concerned about, you know, having a sick day or going on vacation. Cause that's difficult when you're self-employed. Like, you're scared to go on vacation. You have a sick day, but you don't get them. You go work anyway, and it's miserable. So I like to see the business continue to grow. And then just from a creative aspect, I just really want to keep doing the podcast, but I got to figure out a way to switch it up a little bit. After doing it for 3 years, sometimes you just got to like change things up to stay passionate about something. And we see that with big creators, right? We see that with Peter McKinnon. His content is completely different than when he first started out. And that's okay. It's okay to change things up.
Nothing wrong with that. Speaking of like changing things up, like I think the last one you uploaded on your podcast was like a live stream. I didn't catch the actual live stream itself, but I saw the replay. So is that something you're going to get into, like streaming more?
I think so. I think I would like to maybe like flip flop, right? So have 1 week where it's a pre-recorded guest episode, and then the next week maybe live stream an episode. And that kind of keeps things fun and interesting for yourself. Yeah. And which will make you be able to, you know, do it more long term.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you do that, because I'd love to like check it out.
Yeah.
Check out the live stream itself. So let's get nerdy, man. For the gearheads out there, what is it that you are rocking in 2023?
Oh man, I change things up constantly. So right now, what I'm rocking, because we're only like a month and a half into the year, for like business aspects and even content creation. No, that's different. Let's backtrack a little bit. So in the backpack, right? Daily in the backpack, we have the Nikon Z9, which is probably one of the most underrated.
Did homie just say Nikon?
It's one of the most underrated cameras.
I'm messing around. Like, it's
one of the most underrated cameras.
This is one of those things like where people make fun of Nikon. The joke's got to fly.
It's one of the most underrated cameras. I absolutely love that camera. It is such a great camera. You know, wide angle lens, 14-30, and a 24-70. And then, of course, I gotta have a gimbal for what I do. But then,
what's the gimbal?
The RS2.
RS2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then drone wise, Mavic 3.
How do you like it?
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great now. It wasn't great when it first came out, but it's great now.
So I listened to the podcast with you and Billy
Kyle.
Yeah. So when you guys were describing as far as like turning on the Mavic, and it would like take forever to like the lag.
It was
I never experienced that, but I did get the drone like 2 or 3 months later when it got announced and whatnot. So I know you got it instantly. So yeah, you're probably going through those bugs, but like when you guys were mentioning that, I was like, dude, I have no idea what they're talking about.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was.
I'm glad I didn't go through that. But
it was ridiculous. I mean, literally waiting 15, 20 minutes to get.
You were saying that, I'm like, what?
GPS.
Like it tastes like seconds. Like it
does now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it was so funny, like listening to your guys' experience when the Mavic 3 first came out. So you got Mavic 3.
Yep.
Anything?
So that's kind of, I mean, that's all you need.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that is a lot. Those are flagship, high-end drone and camera and lenses. So they're not cheap. It's a stupid amount of gear to carry in your backpack, but it's what I use every day to create the content I'm creating for clients.
Nice. And as far as like, what's your editing rig? I mean, I'm looking at it right here, but if you mind describing it for the creators out there.
So it's what is that? The Mac Studio, I think, right? I think that's what it's called.
I'm not a Mac person, so I'm a PC guy. So this is all foreign territory.
M1 Mac Studio, I think it is. And then I went with a ultra wide monitor, and that's kind of a game changer. I love being able to have multiple windows open and have the same amount of real estate basically as you would if it was on a smaller monitor. The only downside to that is it's a 1080p monitor, so the resolution's not that great. But the nice thing is, you know, everything looks even better that you're creating. It's going to look better on a phone. It's going to look better on a 4K monitor. So that's the setup for
what's
editing.
like, do you like, does the Nikon shoot like what, 4K 60, 4K?
Oh, the Nikon, yeah, it shoots 4K 60, 4K 180. It shoots 8K internally.
Oh, wow.
I mean, things gnarly.
Oh, so it's a beast then.
It's a beast. It's huge.
I just never really hear about it. But that's
if awesome. You look up the Nikon Z9 on YouTube, you're gonna find a lot of reviews, and the things kind of blow your mind. And I think a lot of creators that have reviewed it, they've sent it to creators that are Sony shooters and Canon shooters. Not one person has one bad thing to say about that camera. It's fantastic. It's just like, I can't switch to Nikon because I'm already invested in Sony, and Sony rocks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And they're just kind of late to the game. And I had a huge camera dilemma a while back about like, maybe I need to switch because I wanted something that shot 4K 60 that was good in low light, because that's what you need for real estate. And I almost decided to go to Canon instead of like Nikon or Sony, but I ended up pulling the trigger on the Z9. It's an expensive camera, but I don't regret it. It's fantastic.
So you just pretty much sold what you had already, or do you still, or do you hoard all your gear?
No, I sold another camera I had to help pay for it. And then of course, it's a business write-off, and I had, it's part of knowing what goes in your pricing, so you have money aside to make these investments. Yeah. So it's been great. I love that camera.
That's awesome. Speaking of business write-offs, so yeah, I'm currently like in the process of doing my taxes right now, and it's not fun.
No.
So it's like being like a business owner, like something I was discussing with my wife, like where she has a normal job, where it's like, yeah, the pros of having a job, it's like you don't worry about any of that. You just get your W-2 and you fill it out, and that's it.
Yeah.
Where we're like, you got to keep track of every single thing.
Ridiculous amount of 1099s.
Yes.
And then reaching out to clients like, hey, where is it? Like, you haven't sent it. Even though, they asked for your W-2, you're still waiting on a 1099.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah. I'm currently in the process of like doing all that. Like, I'm learning about, you're supposed to send your 1099s by the 31st of January, which I didn't know. So now I got to pay a penalty fee for that. So it's like, I've been learning a lot. I'll say that at least, man. But yeah. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Yeah, taxes are the worst, but I have it pretty streamlined because most of my stuff is credit card, right? So I don't need to worry about 1099s because I use Stripe, and so they like all your at the end of the year they give you a tax document that shows all your transactions and what you made, and that makes it pretty easy. So the only real 1099s I have are from bigger shoots where they paid check, maybe they're big corporate clients and stuff like that.
Sure.
But, yeah, taxes. I'm not looking forward. I finally have all the info I need, so I can start doing that. But let's not talk about that because the taxes are super boring.
Seriously, it's boring and scary.
Should we talk about should we talk about what I use for the podcast? Because that's completely different.
I actually wanted to talk to you about it. So yeah, what is it? What are you using the podcast?
So for the podcast, I'll switch out the microphones occasionally just to keep things interesting. Like, I'll notice the difference in sound. Most people probably won't, but I love using the Shure SM7B, but I'll change it up to different microphones I have. But this is definitely a staple. I love the Blue Compass boom arm. Totally boring talking about boom arms, but I love just the sleek look and being able to hide the cable. You're using the Rode one now, which is great. It's super quiet. It adjusts great, but I hate the giant Rode logos all over it.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Rode fan.
I also have those like little microphones, like Rode foamy things, and it has like Rode imprinted in both sides. Like, dude, I wish I could just hide this. Like, and I don't want to like ruin it by scraping it off with a knife or anything like that. But yeah, I agree. Rode, dude, be a little bit more sleek.
Yeah,
but I get it from a marketing perspective.
Yeah,
you want Rode, you want people to see what Rode is and whatnot.
And then that's all feeding into the Rodecaster 2 now. So I just picked up that.
How's that been for you?
It's great. I know some people have had some issues because it just depends when you get it. Like, new tech always has some bugs, but this has been great. I love it. Huge difference in clean preamps. So I can run the Shure SM7B straight into it without a preamp. This is definitely a microphone that needs a lot of gain. So before you would need some sort of preamp to, have some clean extra gain, but not with the Rodecaster 2. Like, it's great. You can do some cool like sound effects with one button pushes and stuff. It's just a smaller footprint, and it has like a mount on the back where you can mount it on a like monitor arm.
Nice.
So I can get it off the desk. I can kind of have it mounted and
anywhere you
adjust it as I needed. It's great. I highly recommend it. If you're going to start a podcast and you have the budget for it, like, check out getting a Rodecaster 1 or 2. My first one actually went to Carlo, who was on the podcast.
Yeah.
So he purchased that, sent it to him.
Oh,
for
nice.
for his podcast. He has a great podcast.
Nice. Yeah, I've been listening to it.
Yeah. So he just took that off my hands. And then, so that's for the audio setup. Of course, you need a decent headphones. These are just Rode headphones, but any headphones will work. Yeah. But it's also a video podcast. So we have the Blackmagic 6K behind here with a Sigma 18-35, and the Blackmagic is just gives it such a good look. I won't say the software. I know you don't want to know what software it all feeds into.
I don't really care. I'm joking. Go for it.
I use Ecamm Live.
Ecamm Live, because I wanted to ask you, because I've seen it like,
but it's a Mac only, so you can't.
I've seen nonstop like Riverside ads on my YouTube and like Instagram. It's like freaking annoying. So I'm okay. Back to the marketing thing. I might try it out and test it out and whatnot.
We can get into that. Like, I am not a Riverside fan.
Okay.
At all.
I just see the ads. I'm like, I don't want to think. I don't want to like do all the research, which I should. Which is, I shouldn't be saying this out loud. But like, if they say Riverside works, why not? But go for it.
So that was kind of like what my last episode was about. So they were the ones
that was them.
They're the ones that reached out to sponsor the podcast. They reached out a few times. So they reached out first, like maybe a year ago or something, and I just said no because I was happy with Ecamm. They kind of overlap a little bit, and so I was already invested in Ecamm. I'm really good friends with the folks over at Ecamm. I am, an affiliate for them, and I could. When they reached out again, I was like, okay, I think I can make this work because while there is some overlap, there are differences, and I can make it work. And I kind of go through this in the live stream. Riverside, it just didn't give me the look I liked that I get out of Ecamm, because Ecamm, you can plug in a LUT, right? And you can do some color adjustment. So what it's recording, like I can get the look I want. Riverside would need some extra work. I'd need to put in the editor, do some color correcting and stuff because I'm using the Blackmagic 6K. And I want a very specific look. And it just didn't work for me. Like it just out of nowhere would stop recording. It would stop recording. And I would reach out to them, and their customer service is horrible. And I was like, if this is how you are with someone that you want to pay money to advertise your product, if I can't get a hold of you and get good customer service, how are you going to be with someone that's paying you money? So it didn't work out.
With the sour taste. I'm so glad you're saying this, because I vividly remember listening to this podcast episode, and I'm like, dude, I wonder what brand he's talking about. And then coincidentally, I'm seeing Riverside ads nonstop, and you're like pretty much like, yeah, they kind of suck.
They do.
I'm saying it. You don't have
to. It's a great product if it works right. And I know some people have had no problems.
Okay.
And I had nothing but problems with it. And I'm a pretty tech savvy person, especially when it comes to podcasting. I've been doing the podcast for 3 years.
It's very professional, sound, visual, everything.
I know how stuff should work, and this should be easy. And if it's complicated, even when it comes to like when you pull up the camera, by default, it's like it's flipped. So it's just,
that's weird.
Yeah. So you got to go into settings and like unflip it. And
which should be by default, but
yeah. So just little things like that. And their customer service was horrible, and the product, I mean, I don't know why I just stopped recording.
Yeah. In the past, I've used for like client podcasts that had to be virtual, I've just used Zoom. I had to figure it out. So I'm like, hey, I need a podcast done by tomorrow. Can you make it happen? I'm like, sure. So I'm trying to figure out how to do it, and just literally just did the Zoom. It's not the greatest look. I mean, I was still able to plug in my camera on my subject, but for the guests, they're using the webcam, and I send them an email like, hey, make sure you have you're next to a window. It's like facing you kind of thing. And they just do condensing light, and it's just like horrible, ugly image, but they didn't really care. But yeah, I mean, yeah, your stuff is like very professional. That's why I was impressed to like seeing you do guest podcast. And it's like, at least from the outside in, it looks like there's like no mistakes happening, because this looks so clean and so
just
seamless.
Internet connectivity is the biggest thing.
Gotcha.
When you're doing a remote podcast, you have difficulty with either they have bad internet or you have bad internet, and it just I try to plug into Ethernet. I'll run a cable all the way out to my router.
That's
so
hilarious.
it's like, I have the best internet possible, but no, they're not doing that. I don't expect my guests to do that. So it is what it is.
Yeah. I know you mentioned Blackmagic. Are you invested in the Davinci Resolve software?
So you get their studio version or whatever it is when you buy a Blackmagic camera. You get that for free. So I've used it a handful of times, but I'm invested into Final Cut with all my plugins and stuff. So it's an expensive, like switching anything, whether it's cameras or editing software, it can be expensive. So I'm happy with Final Cut. I don't need to shoot Blackmagic RAW. I just shoot ProRes on those, and it works fine.
And have you at least toyed around with like the color grading aspect as far as like, because it's supposed to be like the creme of the creme.
There is that you can do way more than you can in any other.
Okay, software. So it is hyped up to it's
okay. Amazing. Okay, the stuff you can do and the power windows and just it's cool because like that's what I miss about, or I wish Final Cut had. When you edit, it's kind of like editing a photo. You can do gradients and you can do all this other stuff to just make the image look just right. When it comes to a photo, you can kind of do that in Resolve. Like they have just amazing tools you can do. And then even just simple stuff like I'll still round trip stuff when I need to, when it comes to flickering issues, if lights are flickering. They have a great default deflicker, tool.
Because I've seen plugins that you have to pay like $200 for to like
use Resolve, and that's fantastic.
Interesting. That's super cool. That's interesting. What is the style of editing on Resolve? Like it's like, you see like arrows and like images, like it's not like a typical timeline. What is that? There's like a specific term for that style of editing on DaVinci.
What do they call them? They call them nodes.
Nodes, yeah, that's what it is. Like the node system, like it's like the Matrix for me. I don't know. I don't understand.
It's trippy, and I don't even like. I'm not fully into it, so I can't really explain it too well. But I mean, you can have certain nodes, like only 50% of what you do in that node, go to the next one. But think of it as layers. So like each node, affects the next one.
Such a trip. It's like my mind is like, I'm like stuck in Premiere. I've been using it for so many years at this point. I'm efficient at it. It's like, do I really want to? But I see like everyone jumping ship right now.
They are, right?
But I mean, there's got to be more to it. I'm sure Blackmagic is investing in these creators. So like, hey, ditch yours and come to us and we'll give you a nice piece of the pie.
Here's the deal with Resolve. It's fantastic and it does a ton. And Hollywood movies are edited using Resolve. The content you're creating does not need to be edited like a Hollywood movie, right? It does way more than you need and can complicate things and just make your project take way longer when your current software probably does everything you need it to do for your client work and even for your creative work.
I love
don't
that.
overcomplicate things, guys.
I love that. I love that you said that, man, because yeah, you're right. Like people want the greatest and no one's cinema cameras just for a talking head Instagram reels. Like, do you really need all that gear? But like, yeah, I agree as far as like
good enough and done quickly.
Right. Yeah. Less is more, man. I noticed like in your closet, you have so much other gear that we haven't even touched upon. Like, do you mind briefly going through that real quick, or what is it that you got?
Yeah. I mean, a couple Nikons. So I got, I always like having two of the same kind of camera body and style, not necessarily the same camera body, but the same, brand just for consistency.
color scheme and whatnot. Yeah.
So that's a game changer. That's a huge tip. If you can save up enough money and have multiple of the same camera brand that shoot in the same color profile, so much easier. Keep it consistent. But a couple of Nikons, a couple of Blackmagics, an Ursa G2, which was a huge impulse buy and don't really need it. I probably should sell that thing. And then, a ton of lights, a lot of lighting, a lot of audio gear. Everyone gets super stoked on the camera stuff, but you need good lighting and good audio, and that takes up a lot of space. Yeah.
Lighting. Like if you have the best camera and shitty lighting, it's just not going to be a good image, no matter if you're shooting. Doesn't matter if you're shooting in 8K or 10K or whatever, like the image is going to suck no matter what.
Pull the trigger on some nice lighting setups, but wait for sales because everything goes on sale. Yeah. So don't pay full price for anything ever.
That's awesome, man. Do you have like one last tip for the creatives out there that are trying to get into the space or trying to make a living out of it? It's a side hustle. They want to make it a full-time gig.
Yeah. Just kind of the theme of this episode, be consistent, be persistent in creating content. I think that will also help kind of like that gas syndrome, that gear acquisition syndrome. If you're creating with what you have, you'll probably be less likely to want the next and greatest thing because you're learning how to get the most out of what you have. And so I find when I'm doing that, I spend less on gear because I'm creating with what I have, and it creates great content. There's no need to buy, the latest and greatest if you can get the most out of what you're currently doing. It's not going to make what you're doing it's not going to improve your skills leaps and bounds. Creating will. So get the most out of your camera until you're ready to take that next leap. But yeah, just be consistent.
Be consistent.
Yeah.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, Jared, it's been a pleasure, man. It's been super cool to be here. And yeah, guys, we'll have all the information in the description as far as like his podcast, his Instagram, and whatnot if you want to connect with Jared. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
See you.